this video, I just want to take you through how to use betting speed evolution in advanced mode. Following the guide and this video, you'll probably find your own techniques. There's many ways you can use it, but my aim here is just to show you one and get you up and running and started with some professional level horse racing analysis. So the first thing, you need to go to the settings tab and make sure that advanced mode is checked. If it isn't, just click on the checkbox and go back to the races tab. I'm going to start with the first race. Now this is going to be a pretty tough race. We can see straight away competitiveness is 10 out of 10, and the focus on this strategy is going to be starting very niche, very tight, looking for horses that we can remove, so horses that we don't think have a chance of winning the race, or at least of contending in the race. And then out of the runners that are left, finding the horses that we think are worth betting on. So to start with, we need to start setting some filters. So let's grab a filter, and this is a flat race over good, and it's at 5 furlongs. So I'm just going to put 5 furlongs to 6 furlongs to start with, keeping it nice, everything nice and specific. And as we can see, this is still showing us competitiveness is 10 out of 10. It's going to be very competitive. I'd suggest that if you're new, you probably move on to the next race in this situation, but I think it's a good race to use as an example. It's going to throw up a lot of problems and it's going to be hard to analyze, so it's a good one to get stuck into in this tutorial. Okay, so on the right hand side we've got a list of horses who have raced in the past year over good going between 5 and 6 furlongs on the flat, and we can see them all listed here with their average speed figures next to them. I'm going to start at the bottom. Let's start by removing horses that have performed poorly. So at a glance we can see that Jinka Noble has performed less at a lower level than any of the other runners, or at least in the majority of runners. You can just see that by glancing where the majority of speed figures are on this graph. If we highlight him, we can also see that the last race he performed really badly, finished 17th, and I mean, before that there was some improvement, but he's going to have to come back and beat his best figure in the last year, if he's going to have a chance of even contending in this race. And notice that he finished 16th there, 4th there, 13th there, and 8th there, so we haven't really got any places or wins, and the average speed figure is so much lower than the top, 74 to 143. I'm going to remove Jinka Noble, and we can come back, in fact we will come back to the horses we've removed later on, just to confirm our decision when we've widened out our parameters slightly, but initially we just want to remove them based on very, very tight parameters. Okay, Boppet is next, and again we see that essentially Boppet's speed figures have been way below, except for one, which is sitting here, where it had a great speed rating on the flat over 5 furlongs, and it was at Haydock. So that's something to bear in mind. I mean, the general performance here is pretty poor, and here pretty poor. It's potential that there is a preference on this course. You know, the 5 furlong on this course, these were 6 furlong, 6 furlong, all the other races were 6 furlongs, so actually there could be a preference for the 5 furlong good going race on the flat at Haydock, and that's something worth bearing in mind. And although the speed figure on average is low, I mean, this is sticking out like a sore thumb that it may have a strong preference over this particular course and conditions. So we're going to leave Boppet in for the moment. Okay, Queen Grace. Okay, now this is an interesting horse. We've got a poor speed rating of 0. Now this gives me a good time to answer questions about how a horse can have a speed rating of 0 or even negative. I mean, we actually have horses that have negative speed ratings, and obviously they're not shown on the graph here. They only go to 0 because anything lower than 0 is really not worth worrying about. And this horse finished first in this race over 5 furlongs, but the speed rating was 0. So how does this happen? Well, we don't, or I don't have a limit on my speed ratings. So a lot of speed ratings that you may see are adjusted to fit within a certain range, maybe 0 to 100, or 0 to 250, or if it's in pounds, they'll fit within the poundage range. So they're put onto a scale for ease of use. However, the problem with that is that by making a further adjustment, you're further diluting the effectiveness of the rating. Essentially what you're doing is you're making another adjustment to bring it in, and there's always mistakes in estimates of ratings anyway. And by adding another process in, we're just adding another potential area to miss information on. And the benefit of having it on a scale of 0 to 100 or something that's considered user-friendly, I don't believe is actually worth it. And my experience tells me it actually isn't worth it. We're better to say, actually, this horse had a speed rating of minus 100. Or how did it? Minus 100 doesn't mean it ran backwards. It just meant that it ran so slowly in that race, it was barely worth considering. And you can have a horse finish first and get a very poor speed rating. I mean, that's not uncommon. How does that happen? Well, it's not racing against very good runners. So, it's as simple as that. The speed of the race was very slow. There could be lots of reasons for that. So the overall speed of the race was slow. The competition was poor. And that all kind of puts together to add in a low rating, but the horse winning. Okay, so now I've explained that, what is interesting to see is that its other rating up here is phenomenal. I mean, this is the best rating we've got out of all the runners in the race. It's 173. But look at the variance on this. We've got a confidence line, as you can see at the bottom, of 426 to minus 80. I mean, what's that telling us? That's telling us that this horse, yeah, it can run fast. I mean, it's proven that. But we don't know what it's going to do. I mean, actually, based on its figures that we've got, this horse could have run as fast as 426 or as low as minus 80 in that particular race, and if we look at this race, we can see it's a similar story. It could have been as high as 253 and as low as minus 253. I mean, we haven't got a strong picture of this runner. We're finding it hard to put together a picture of this runner, and it may be that when we widen our filters, we can get a better picture of it over more a wider condition set. But for the moment, we're finding it hard to picture this run. I'm going to leave it in. We have to leave it in for the moment because it got a speed rating of 173 over 5 furlongs on the good flat at Musselburgh very recently. Can't just knock it out, but it may be one to also use the market on as well. Okay, moving on, we've got Quality Art down here. Just the one race in this filter. Finished 16th. The speed rating was pretty mediocre compared to the majority on this graph, and so I'm going to safely remove it. Average speed is also quite low, so I'm going to take him off. Invisible Force over here is a similar story. Finished 10th. We've only got one race for it, and that was the 17th of October last year. Nothing outstanding there. There was no huge speed rating. Didn't perform well in the race, so and it's not at the top of average speed, so I'm going to take that out as well. Okay, another Wise Kid. This is quite interesting. We've had a couple of good races around a year ago. and it's been on the decline ever since. We had a small blip here where it's come back in the last race, but it still finished 8th. And interestingly, since this decline, I mean, looking at these, we've got a 5 furlong, didn't win, and this one won. Okay, but we're going to have to not only continue this small period of improvement, it's also going to have to continue quite dramatically to contend here. So at the moment I can safely say I'm going to remove another Wise Kid. Okay, Moody. Now this is an interesting runner. It's the 4th on the average rating for this filter, and you'll notice by the way that the average ratings change based on your filters, because obviously we're looking at different information. And we had a really poor race here. I mean, the horse finished 9th. Was obviously expected not to run well because the odds were 17, and you know, it was over similar conditions. I mean, here we've got a 6th, but it performed. I mean, this is showing us that the horse can perform, but hasn't won or placed, which is a concern. Interestingly as well, look at the top lines here: 201 down there and 86 down there. Notice that this 86 lower confidence level in this race, this speed figure was 88, and this 92. You know, so we're well within limits to say that this horse could actually be sitting around this mark. The fact that we have 2 speed figures higher up suggests that maybe it's sitting towards the top end of its upper confidence here, which is 145 instead. You know, actually maybe this speed was a little bit higher than the speed figure suggests. But there's definitely potential for this runner if it can keep up its previous performance. You know, it could be a contender. Again, at the moment we're not looking for a winner, we're just looking for horses that could contend, and that one certainly can. Okay, Courageous. We got 2 races here. Finished 9th, odds of 26, and finished 3rd, odds of 5. This was a 6 furlong race. Possible that prefers the shorter sprint, but the speed figures were much the same, so that would indicate that maybe it was, you know, the horses it was running against in this race weren't actually as good as the ones it was running against in this race. Yes, potentially this horse could contend. We don't want to knock it out, but it's declining, and even though the decline is small, there's always concern over decline. The only reason is that the figures are high, they're pretty stable, you know, 140, 145. The win was over a 5 furlong like today, whereas the poorer performance was on the 6 furlong, and the average speed figure is joint second, you know. Okay, now who's the cat? I mean, this is looking like quite a good runner. We've got a small decline here as well, a bit of a concern, but again, like Courageous down here, it's not too big. I mean, this race they had a speed reading of 163, and here 158. You know, there's not much in it. It's well within, you know, the variance allowed. I mean, it could just a few points could potentially just be, you know, the ratings. No ratings are 100% perfect. We do our best to get as 100% as we can, but they are a rating and they are an estimate. You know, there's certain factors that it's impossible to account for, so we have to estimate them. So I mean, this decline is, you know, as I say, you know, we want to bear it in mind, but also the horse finished 3rd here and finished 3rd here, so it's running well. It's running well over good flat races at the moment. If we come over here, we can see there's a bit of a decline, and it's had a nice break. We've got a nice break period, and it's come back and is going strongly. So, you know, Who's the Cat is a definite potential contender. Okay, D-Man Waters' highest average speed figure. We've got a nice slow improvement here. It came in with a good figure this year. First race over the good flat, 5 furlongs. Finished 5th, didn't win. was expected to do well. We can see odds were 5, and it did. It put in a good performance, and we can see that all these figures are sitting within the top levels of the other runners. Then we saw a small improvement, finished third again, and then we finally moved over here. Actually, the improvement increased. There was a continued improvement. Finished position not quite so good, however, but definitely a continued improvement. And the improvement, the level it's racing at, looks to be well within contendability of these horses. So definitely going to be staying in for the moment. Okay, so we've managed to knock out 4 as potentials for the moment, and now I'm just going to widen this to 7 and see if that brings any more figures on the graph. And no, that all looks, just cycling through them quickly, they're all the same. And I'm going to widen the going, good to soft, good to firm. I don't really, on sprint races, I don't like to go further than 7 furlongs. It's more than 7 furlongs, we're getting into a different type of race completely. So, but I will look over good to soft and good to firm. And as you can see, we've had a whole lot more information put on here. And notice that every time we make a change, we're still getting the very competitive sign up. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to start by seeing if any of the horses we've removed as eliminations, the ones that we don't think are going to contend, have now suddenly shown that they have potential. Jinka Noble still looking pretty poor, so that's fine. Quality Art still sitting down here. You'll see him appear. Quality Art. Still looking pretty mediocre and nothing, to indicate that it's going to win. Same with Invincible Force. It's over here. There we are. We'll see it appear there. Nothing changed. And then another Wise Kid. Okay, and actually that's almost confirmed our decision. We've seen a drop off in the last race. If we go and have a look at it, notice that you can also hover over the figures for a horse even if you've taken them off the display. They're still there, it's just you can't see them anymore. And that was actually over Haydock on the flat, 6 furlongs. Finished 8th, so nothing really there for us. So we're still happy with our eliminations. And now let's go down and look at the other horses. Queen Grace. Now we kept Queen Grace because of this superb figure it ran on the 3rd of August. But we can see over here now, we got another rating on the good to soft, 5 furlongs. Came 3rd, but look at the speed. I mean, it was poor again. And notice again the variance that we've got there, how uncertain we are of this horse's ability to perform. 179 to minus 141. I mean, that is some serious concerns there. I'm still not going to move it out. I'll get onto the reason why later. I'm going to use the market on this. A horse that's performed so well over the same conditions, we need to be wary of, even if it is indicating that there's a lot of variance. Its other races have been poor, and on these, I have no confidence in this horse. So there's no confidence for me in this run. I mean, the average speed is poor. The 2 out of 3 performances we're seeing are poor. It's just had one superb performance. So I'm going to check the market on it. And we use the market in 2 ways. We use it both for long odds and short odds. I mean, if the odds on this horse are short, that's going to indicate to me that that there's probably some good potential for it to win. However, I'm looking at the past figures and I'm thinking, at the moment, something may change when we come out a bit further on the filter, but at the moment I'm thinking if it's got a short odds, I'm not going to be betting it to win. There's too much concern, but I might be using it as a saver. So if Queen Grace won the race, then I would look to break even, return money. I wouldn't be looking to make money on it. So we will use the market. We also use the market on longer odds horses as well. So if we've had a horse that we think is really strong and it's out at, 50 to 1 or 100 to 1, then we probably need to look at it again. I mean, I generally won't bet above 29 to 1 anyway. Profitable, yes, but do they win enough? No. So it's not that we can't make money on them, it's that we don't win them often enough to make it worthwhile. So we will also use the market, but we'll come to that later on. Okay, Bop It. Right, we've got a different picture here now for Bop It. You can see that actually, this race, I mean, there's similar conditions, but 6 furlongs, and let's see here, York 5 furlong, good to soft. I mean, it's still showing that there's potential. There's been a small improvement here. This is 6 furlong, this is 6 furlong, this is 6 furlong, this is 6 furlong, and that's 6 furlong. So in fact, apart from this one race here, the best performing races have been 5 furlongs, which is good to note. 2 out of the best performances have been on good condition, good going. And the horse contended. I mean, it finished 5th. It wasn't great. Finished 8th. Was no contention there. So again, what do we do with this runner? Well, once more, not a lot of confidence, but the only reason I'm keeping it as a selection is because under the exact same conditions, course, going, race type, distance, exact conditions, it put in a very strong race. So while its average speed is not looking good, I'm not removing it because there is the potential for it to contend. And this could be a good each way bet or a place bet depending on the market. If the market's got it priced really high, we know there is the potential for it to repeat that performance. So we'll leave it in. It's not a selection, but it's still a potential contender. Okay, Courageous. Now this shows us a different picture. We show a really poor race down here on first, good to soft, after a really good race, but there'd been a long break and it was just coming back in, so not particularly unexpected. And since then, we can see there's been a pretty steady improvement, in fact, overall. And while we know the last 2 races were, where were they? These 2 here, good. Actually, on the good to firm, it's performed even better. Down here, good to soft, good to firm. I mean, we've seen a steady improvement over recent months, and this horse can definitely contend. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Even more so if the ground firms up. So that horse is definitely a potential, and I'm actually going to mark it now as a potential. So there we are. That's marked now as a potential, a selection. Who's the cat? Okay, now this shows us another story. I mean, look, this horse is pretty volatile, and generally speaking, I don't like betting on volatile horses. There is a pattern: good race, bad race, good race, bad race, good race, bad race. And we've just had a bad race, so there's potential for it to jump up again. But I'm not a fan of volatility. I'm not going to mark it as a possible selection, but if the odds are very good on it, then again it could be in each way. It might be worth taking the risk of that volatility. If we go a bit closer, we can see that was good to soft, good to firm. I'm looking at the poor races here. Good to firm, good to soft. I mean, there's no going conditions particularly. We've got 5 furlongs. We've got 5 furlongs. We've got 6 furlongs. There's nothing standing out, specifically over what it is this horse likes. So we're unsure about it. It's definitely got the potential to contend, so we don't remove it, but there's concerns. Harmoudi. Okay, we've got some more information here as well. We've got a poor race here. Good 5 furlong race on the flat. Oh, that was the one we saw before. We've just added in this extra one here in the middle so that we can actually see the decline. and the first race here. So we can see a decline, and we've had a recent comeback to form. So we know this horse can perform, but the concern is it finished 11th. However, it finished 8th, finished 6th, hasn't placed since April this year. Finished 9th there. So, I mean, yes, can it perform in this race? Yes. Has it shown it can win races? Not specifically. So it's definitely got potential. Again, we can't remove it, but maybe it's not as strong as we would like. Okay, now we've got some other interesting information about Demon Walters. Note it's still the top on average ratings here. 140 by 10 points, in fact. So it's averaging a much faster figure than the other runners. We've got a bit of a drop down at the end here. Good to firm, 5 furlongs. These are the ones that we saw already. This is a good to soft race. Good to firm, so it can run on good to firm. A 5 furlong race there, that was the same. So what are we expecting from this horse? Well, if we actually look at it, it's kind of hovering around. This could indicate a decline. Again, there's not a lot of confidence here. Yes, it can definitely contend in this race, and this is the reason we chose this race. We knew from the beginning it was going to be competitive, it was going to be hard to analyse, and that was part of the reason for wanting to use it in this video. There's nothing really outstanding. It can perform, but so can others. But it's got the potential to contend as long as the decline doesn't continue. So we're not going to mark it as a strong selection, but we're going to leave it as a contender. So after that, we can see that we've knocked out 4 eliminations. We've got one that's showing good potential, that's kind of steadily improved recently, Courageous. And then we've got another 2, 3 potentials up the top, and then we've also got Bop It and Queen Grace, who we want to confirm with some market values. Okay, now I'm actually going to reset the filter. Okay, I want to see what the race looks like with no filters. Okay, and notice Demon Water's still at the top. And in fact, I'm just going to go back to the change the filter back here to 5, exactly the same as this race. And notice here that we've just changed these average figures. I mean, Bop It is way higher. I mean, we've only got a few races for each of these, but now Bop It is sitting right at the top. No, it's quite interesting actually to see. All the ones we've eliminated under the exact conditions are way lower on the average speed, except for Queen's Grace, which we're keeping in because of this one good race. And we've essentially got Courageous, which is our 3rd, and all the others are sitting in there. So a quick look at this shows us that Bop It performed very well. Demon Waters, contender. Courageous, okay, we haven't seen the improvement, but definitely potential. I mean, Who's Cat's looking good based on the last race under the exact conditions, so maybe we need to revisit this run. I mean, under these specific conditions it's looking good, but we've only got one recent race, and that was after a long break off, and Hamoudi is still looking contender, but we've got this slight variance. So it's just good to keep that in mind. So let's go back, reset, and let's just take a look at them overall. Okay, not much change there. Another Wise Kid. We've still got a drop off. Okay, this is quite interesting. I mean, this shows on Who's Cat we've got this decline, and then we've got up, down, up, down. I mean, that gives me cause for concern, and I wouldn't want to be betting on Who's Cat. I mean, I don't like betting on variance. So I'm actually going to remove who's cap because I don't like the look of that overall pattern of decline and variance. Courageous, we can see since this race down here, 19th of May, that steady improvement is exactly what we've been seeing. There's a little blip, but he's come back nicely from that, and so we still expect the contending. Hamoudi, I mean, again we've got a few good races and a few bad races, and there's a lot of variance. And I'm going to look at the market and we'll see what it says. Queen Grace, I mean, this is the interesting one. I mean, this horse is just all over the place. I mean, look at it. That's why we've got such big concerns about its performance. I mean, we have seen, the interesting thing to note is that there was a race here, where it performed better than this. So there is there has been an improvement. It wasn't a one-off sudden, but it's pretty steep, pretty steep. So I'm going to stick with that. Look at the market, and Bop It. Bop It's exactly the same. We're keeping it in because of that one race over exact conditions. Okay, now with that, I will go look at the market. Now, this race actually doesn't take place till tomorrow, so the market's not really going to be formed, but we'll take a look at it anyway. Okay, bear with me while I pull that up. Okay, so we've got that race up, and it's interesting. Let's take a look at this. I mean, the market is 106%, so it's, as one would expect, not really formed. There's only been £956 matched on it, but it can start to give us an idea. Let me pull up our horses, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move these windows around a bit so that we can actually no, maybe I'll keep it where it is. Sorry. So Queen Grace, the first thing, Queen Grace, this is our runner that had a big race. So the first thing we notice is Queen Grace is the current favourite. Could change, but at the moment it's sitting at 4.6 in the market. Okay, now that says to me, if that stays tomorrow and closer to the race, then that would say to me, okay, interesting. I have concern over this horse. I'm not really sure I want to bet much money on it. I mean, look at that variance. As I already said, I don't like betting on, volatile horses. It's shown that it can run fast though. And I'm guessing that it's because of this race that it's sitting at favourite. However, if it stays sitting there, I would probably use it as a saver bet, possibly part of a Dutch. Okay, next we want to look at is Bop It. That was the other one that we had really wanted the market's information on. At the moment it's at 14.5. Potentially it could do well. So that could be a nice place bet for us. It's not outrageous, but at place it's saying 3.8. We know that under the specific conditions it's running at, it can run. So getting 3.8 odds to finish in the top 3, it could be good for it. The win odds aren't like 50 to 1 or something way out there. Bop It, potential place bet there. Okay, Hamoudi. Okay, let's have a look at the market for Hamoudi. 7.2. No. And again, this market could change completely. We're still a long way from the race off. I mean, this is tomorrow, this race. So at 7.2 though, no, that's not saying much to me. I don't like the volatility. I would take it out. It's got potential. This part of the process is actually more about structuring the bet. I mean, we haven't got any standout runners in this race. So we're trying to decide the best way to structure the bet based on the odds. And bet structuring is very important. I very seldom bet on a single horse in a race. Very seldom are there races where only one horse has a chance of contending in it, being a winning horse. So I like to bet on all horses that actually have the potential of winning, as long as I think I'm getting value. And Harmoudi definitely has potential of winning. So it could be part of a Dutch bet. In a race that's this competitive, I'm most likely to be Dutch betting because, there aren't one or two horses, so doing, 2 each ways or 20/80s is probably not the best option. So Hammoudi maybe part of that Dutch bet at the current odds of 7.2. Okay, Courageous. Let's take a look at Courageous in the market. Alright, Courageous is sitting at 9 again. What I'm looking for now is I'm looking for horses, and again, the market's not fully formed yet, so the picture could change, but I'm looking for horses that are way outside. I'm looking for horses that have the potential to contend, but then when we go to the market, we're seeing actually the market is telling us that this horse is just it's 40-1. I mean, its chance of contending is, but it's not telling us that with Courageous, and Courageous is the one we liked, remember, so that's definitely staying in. And then Demand Waters is again another one, it has potential, and that's sitting at 9 as well at the moment. So how at the current odds would I structure this bet? Well, I like Courageous, but there's still potential. We've got the small decline, there's the volatility. It's definitely our favourite. So there's a number of possible ways that I would structure this bet. The first would be to do a Dutch across Demand Waters, Courageous and Hammoudi, and having Queen's Grace as the saver. So we would break even on Queen's Grace if it won, and make a profit if any of the other 3 won. And then I would do Bop It as a place bet. Just a small place bet. In fact, no, I'd probably do Bop It as a 20/80. So 20% of the stake on the win and 80% on the place. Just because we know it can perform under these conditions, and it has done, and the odds are looking pretty healthy on it. And if it repeats that performance, then we're going to do well. So a 20/80 is probably what I would go for Bop It, and then Dutch, as I said before. That at the moment, at the current odds, would be my preferred staking. Okay, so I hope that's given you an overview of how to analyse what is actually a very competitive and difficult race to get stuck into. If we have a look at another one quickly, let's find a small race. Here we go. I mean, here's a 6-runner race, 8:20 tomorrow. We can see it's not very competitive straight away. I mean, we've only got 4 runners that we've got figures for out of the 6. We can put a filter in, but to be honest, there's not many races. There's not really any point. We can look straight away. It's on the all-weather at Kempton Standard, 7 furlongs. We can see straight away that Afro, poor rating over similar conditions. I mean, really, we can just shortcut by looking at this horse up here. So the only one that really looks like it's got a chance is Queen Angle, but let's go through them anyway. We can remove Afro immediately. Rainbow Beauty, average speed of 85. It's raced on the flat there and on the flat, so it's coming to the all-weather for the first time. Performance, we have no idea what it's going to do. The figures aren't great. Chances are on Good to Firm, it only got a rating of 88. Chances are it's not going to perform well enough in this race, so I'm going to take it out. Again, if the odds tell us otherwise, well, might consider it. Talent. On the flat, Good to Firm. Rating was poor. Don't know how it's going to perform on the all-weather. I mean, the rating was a bit better than the rest, but Queen Aggie, 123. I mean, all-weather, good rating, and small improvement as well. So Queen Aggie looks to be the selection in that race. I mean, at 8:20 tomorrow, there's basically not going to be a market, but let's take a look anyway while we're here. Queen Aggie, currently favourite, unexpected. Now the runners we're interested in are the ones we haven't got any figures for. So we got Queen Aggie, Talent, Rainbow Beauty, and Afro. Queen Aggie, Talent, Rainbow Beauty, and Afro. So Honeymoon Express and Hanzada are the two that we don't know about. Honeymoon Express, anything, you know, odds like that on a horse I don't have information on is automatically scrubbed for me. Now Hanzada, currently 4.8, has got some potential, but not enough. I mean, Queen Aggie, as it stands at the moment, would be the one. If Hanzada came in, you know, came down to be the similar odds to Queen Aggie, I'll probably consider a Dutch, because we don't know about it, so we have to take the market's opinion. And if the market is telling us that it's got a strong chance of winning, then, you know, then we listen. But otherwise, Queen Aggie is a clear, you know, a clear single bet for me in this race. And this is one of the races where there is only one that's really stand out. So you can see when you have a race that, you know, is a lot less competitive, it can be very, very quick to find selections. You know, obviously in very strongly competed races where the horses are either not of the highest quality or they're very similar levels of performance expected, it takes that much longer to analyse. And I hope that's given you a good overview of how you can use Betting Speed Evolution for advanced form analysis. If you've got any questions, feel free to contact me, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Okay, bye for now.